Episode number 263.
Point A is like a reality check, kind of, just you in the mirror as to what your financial situation is.
Right.
And then point B is that idea of what the ideal life would be for you.
Welcome to the Be Real Show with Travis Too Tall and Huff, where we talk about life, dreams, social media, and business.
Well, hello and welcome to the Be Real Show with Travis Too Tall and Huff. Folks, you know your boy's always fired up, and most importantly, especially during these times, I've always preached to you about finding ways to get your financial freedom, finding ways to control and understand your money. And that's what's going to make us stronger, especially going through things like we're going through right now. But I think after the show, you're going to want to take it more seriously and maybe look at the mix and maybe want to remix your retirement and look at things in your investing portfolio, because I'm bringing you our featured guest today, Chip Munn. Chip, are you ready to be real?
Let's go, Travis. What's up, man?
Let's go. He said, let's go, folks. So we're ready, baby. He's ready. He's in the driver's seat. We're ready to rock. Chip is a former sixth grade teacher, turned author, turned podcast host, and turned financial advisor. And him and his team now have grown their business, this is just amazing. To now have 11 offices in 3 states, overseeing $1.3 billion in client assets. And then we're going to talk about the book, which we're really going to get into. But the journey of going from being a teacher into a financial advisor, my man. What gave you that angst in your heart and your soul to say, hey, now's the time. I'm going to make a change in my life?
Well, listen, I don't know about you. There's been a time, and this was one of them in my life, where I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew what I wasn't going to do. And that was teach sixth grade school anymore. And so for me, I was in a job that I liked the idea of it. I loved kids, but I didn't like, the discipline and some of the stuff that's in the system. And of course, obviously now being an entrepreneur, you can see how that wouldn't gel. But I got about halfway through the school year, Travis, and I just knew I didn't want to go back. And so I just told them and quit essentially at the end. I finished out the year and decided that I wanted to do something different. And I had a friend who said, hey, you ought to look into doing something in investments, which was more what it was at the time. Right. And my family literally lost the family farm to the death tax. So years ago when my granddad died, we had to sell the farm to pay the taxes. And, this seemed like a pretty cool job. Wasn't looking to go to law school. Right. After, teaching sixth grade. Right. And so this seemed like a good way to be able to help people kind of plan so they didn't deal with some of those things that my family did.
Yeah. I mean, you hear that time and time again, and you hear the stars and celebrities and all these different high level stories, but you can just imagine that trickles down to in any single person. When you don't know where your money's at, and then some things you're out of control. Like you said, you're out of control with that certain situation because you had to sell the farm just to pay the tax on it. Now, if you did have the money in an investment, you wouldn't have to do that. Now, that's probably why you've gone in your passion, and there's little things you can do every single day, every single week, every single month to not only save money, but then also to invest that money. And I'll tell you guys straight up, that's when I literally found my financial freedom in my life, because I started my business in the last recession, 2009. I started my business June 2009. We got our very first check from Lennar, a home developer. And we just started going, and the point is still, it hasn't changed. Even though the Rona's here, we're still trying to get new clients and we're still trying to service our current customers, obviously. But we're dealt something different because some of our customers are out of business. Their whole category of business is going to be gone this whole year. Like the water parks, done the whole year. All of them. That's a big advertiser, actually, completely for a lot of media. And one of our biggest partners, too, with some of our clients. So the point is, you still can't look at the negative. You got to look at the positive. But because I've created financial freedom, folks, in my life in different ways, I'm not hurt as hard as I'm not having to sell the farm, if you want to call it, right now, because of a little bit of planning, right? And so that's something that I think people, Chip, I'm sure you're getting requests for it right now. I mean, people are wanting to figure out a plan. have a plan, have an emergency savings, understand where your money's being invested, right? Because I think that's a lot of it. A lot of times people don't know where the money's being invested. They don't even know, so it's like, if you don't know that, you're going to have a real tough time. Tell me, what is some of the things that your clients are going through right now? What are some of the questions and requests you have for them right now?
So a lot of different things right now. Of course, one of the biggest questions that I've gotten a lot of lately, because we've been in the Rona, as you call it, for a while,
right,
is, what do I do if I'm going to be downsized? There's a lot of concern about that, particularly in folks who are later in their career. And honestly, my advice to them has been to go to their employer, to figure out what it is that you want to do with the rest of your life, and paint a picture to your company and say, hey, and again, talking for folks who are later in their career, and say, look, I'd be willing to work part of the time for part of the money. So if you got to and my thought on that, Travis, is
great point.
If you're the person who's going in, the company, maybe business isn't as good, going in and having a conversation with management or HR or whoever to try to help solve their problem, which is they're going to have budget problems, by saying, hey, I'd be more than happy to be a team player, but I'd like to just do these things that I'd like to do.
Right.
And I'd like to do them these hours, and I need to get this amount of money. And you're in a situation now where I think it's unprecedented for people to be able to go to their employers and really you're going in and you're it may sound like you're interviewing for your perfect job, but it's because you are. You actually wrote the job description for yourself, went in, had that conversation and sold it. And I've seen multiple people. I have a client who's a marketing director, who was a marketing director, who really liked the social media part of what she was doing,
right,
but not the sales and ad sales and that kind of thing. Went to her employer, said, look, I want to do the social media. I'll take half my salary, but I only want to work 20 hours. I want to be, I want to be able to do it from home. I don't want to have to come into the office.
Right.
And the boss was excited and was glad to be able to keep her on just doing the things that she liked. She was able to pick up some more clients. And again, for folks later, she's younger, but for folks later in their career, you've got stuff you've been thinking about. For everybody, Travis, retirement means different things to different people. And so for some people, it means they get to travel. For others, it's going to spend time with family or watch grandkids or whatever.
Right.
And the truth is, most people want to do more than just that. So they want to be able to work some. A lot of folks do, but they only want to do things they like. They only want to work when and where they want to work. And I think now we're at a time where you can have that conversation.
Yeah, this is the new norm. I mean, going along with what everything else they say, if you got to wear a mask and all this stuff, the new norm is you create the workspace that you want, that you feel comfortable with. Because at the end of the day, businesses just want happy people. They want happy staff members, team members. They want people that show up, do the work. But if it's easier for you not to commute an hour per day, like I've been having interviewing lots of different podcast guests that are not having to travel into their jobs, and they're quite liking that they can spend more time with their family for an extra hour or two each day that they didn't get because they're rushing out the door every day. Let's just be real. So there's just so many different benefits. There's obviously negatives too. Let's just, it's not all sugar coated and great. There's challenges and tough parts about being only on Zoom. So you got to find a dynamic that works best for you and your organization. But yeah, I mean, I think now's the time, and then especially getting into your money, because I think now is also the time that people are really, they're hurting in many ways. And if you aren't hurting, and if you've maybe had some money saved up, now maybe people are thinking about trying to save, invest, etc., because they're just wanting to make sure that they do that before they spend. And maybe they can't spend right now. So, you're seeing that because there's not much to spend money on. There's no concerts. There's no trips. You can't really go on exotic trips right now, So people are saving probably more in general because we're just going to the grocery store and getting food. I mean, what else are you really getting? Maybe a few things here and there, but it's not quite the same when you don't have the shopping malls and the big experiences open. For people to kind of freely just go and spend money, like the movie theaters, and these things just suck in people's cash.
Sure. I think you're going to see people come out of this different. I think the priorities are going to change.
Right.
I think that, patterns. You talked about work, but you also, you talk about travel.
Yes.
And are you going to do more driving, whereas before maybe you flew somewhere? And I think there's going to be, I can say that for my wife and I, we found our priorities over the last 3 months have changed, and went in and, Travis, we've cut about 25% of our personal spending forever by eliminating some payments and by right-sizing some things that we didn't need, and using the money to pay off things. And it's been and just a simple thing. If folks out there who are hurting, a simple thing to do is just to audit your credit and your credit cards and bank account statements, because I'll guarantee you. Actually, I guess being in the investment business, guarantee isn't a word I use.
Right.
I'd be willing to bet that if you audit your credit and debit card statements, you'll find more than one thing that you're paying for that you don't even use.
Right.
And so you can find money. It's almost like finding money in the cushions of your couch. You go through, you could tell, Travis, I don't spend all my time at the gym.
Right.
At one point, I had 3 gym memberships. Yeah. So when I did this audit, we had signed up for something, and it's on a draft, right? Because that's how people want you to pay. And
you forget about it. You just forget about it.
Of course you do. And you're not even. And so you can find money to repurpose into something else.
Right.
From things that you don't even miss it. It's not like you cut your cable off. Yes. Right. And so I think there are a lot of things like that where it's just small little things that add up to a lot.
Oh, yeah. It's literally, and then I think that's a good point too, not only to look at what you're spending and maybe just eliminate the bill completely, but just look at the trend. Right now, I know in my household for many years, Amazon is a very frequent trend on my statement. That's why Mr. Bezos supposedly made $11 billion yesterday alone. Unbelievable amount of money that guy's making. But the point is, bottom line, folks, is at the end of the day, you can look at your money, audit it, just like I always say, audit your time. Same thing. If you think you need to make more money, you're spending time on something that you're not making money on. If you are making so much damn money that you don't have enough time, then you need to empower others to take out more of those tasks that you're doing. It's just one of those simple things, right? But most importantly right now is if you are struggling, which we all are struggling in different ways. Like everybody is struggling in different ways. Even if you're the richest of the rich. Maybe outside of Bezos and Elon Musk right now, but
yeah, he's probably okay.
Those guys, they're a little insulated right now, but still, even entertainers that can't perform and their cash flow is drying up. Robert De Niro, had to pay out $500,000 and had to borrow the $500,000 to float his loans for his hotels and stuff that are not open right now and not able to do business, and restaurants, high-end restaurants that are not able to do the level of business they're used to doing. Takeout is not going to save a restaurant. So it's 20 to 30%. I work with a lot of restaurants. It's 20 to 30% on a good day. And that hopefully the benefit would be is that if it gets back to normal, that will be incremental revenue because a lot of people will be ordering maybe more. But then you also have the huge trend of people are now cooking at home. 90% of people are cooking breakfast at home. That's just one category. Just think about it. That's why the oatmeal companies and shit are just going through the roof right now, because these people are just buying oatmeal left and right and cooking it at home. That's what we're doing. It's just easier, it's simpler, and we don't. Why even risk the trip to McDonald's if you don't have to? The point is that is a scary trend for the industry. But the point in general is, hey, bottom line is they're gonna have to figure it out. That's just like anything. If you can't make it through these times, then you're going to have to get into a different business. We can't feel completely bad for you. There's restaurants killing it out there too. So there's restaurants shipping their stuff, across the country right now. Even though they can't send them in their own local, space, they're sending them across the country, and people are buying huge orders of this stuff, $100 orders where normally the person just buys one sandwich. So the question is, folks, are you willing to change? Right? That's the real question. And I think that's the question people are going to have to ask when you look at those trends in your bank account and your credit card. Are you willing to make the trend, the trend to change your Starbucks habit? Because, some people spend $5 a day. That's $150. That's a lot of money. If you add it up and you had been able to take that money and put it in Tesla stock 7 years ago when it was $26, and you were able to put in $300-400, you now have about $30,000. So
yeah, you could get a lot closer to buying a Tesla.
Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly. For $300, for $400 of delayed Starbucks purchases, you'll have the capital to put into a company that could grow that way. Now, Tesla's unique in that it has grown a lot, but a lot of companies grow. A lot of companies that are good companies do grow over time. Whether you buy Facebook stock, you buy whatever. How do you believe in a mix? Does it depend on their age and risk tolerance, and kind of how does that factor into it all?
Sure, it definitely should certainly be a part of it from a general planning perspective, though, in terms of how you invest. I mean, you want to begin with the end in mind, right? You want to figure out saving for the future, whether it's for retirement is just part of the future. Right. So saving for the future is getting a clear picture of what that looks like. We call it A to B. So point A is like a reality check. That's where we are now, getting real, kind of, just you in the mirror as to what your financial situation is. Right. And then point B is, we call it a signature life, but it's that idea of what the ideal life would be for you. That could be working part-time, fully retired, not doing anything, working any number of things, but you want to have this, you want to be able to live here. These are the people you want to be around. And when you get a clear picture of those two places, it's just math. Then you take what you have and what you want, and there's a line. And now some people's are steeper than others. Warren Buffett only has to invest in CDs. Right. But my suggestion would be then you don't take any more risk than is necessary to get from point A to point B. But you have to define those two first. And the other thing is not getting suckered in by your emotions and staying into a long-term pattern where it feels best to buy at the top of things. Doesn't matter what kind of market you're talking about, stocks, real estate. Right. Hey, listen, man, pride comes before a fall. That emotional roller coaster, it's the same way in love. Right. Things feel great, and that's when, and it always feels worst near the bottom of things, and that's where there's the most opportunity. So setting point A and point B, figuring out what you really want. And like I said, I think that's where, Travis, we're going to see people have changed, is not just what they have, but what they want has changed. Right. They don't care about having a second home because they just upgraded something because they were home for 3 months during COVID. Yep. And now they've got their she shed or their man cave or whatever. In 3 months, I suppose you could dig a pool for yourself. But I mean, you
digging pools up like record crazy.
You've made some changes, right? And so now what I want has changed. And so I just have to make changes in my plan.
Yeah. And I think that's the most important thing, folks, and then know that it's okay to have a starting ground, right? I think that's a lot of people maybe feel bad they didn't get started at the right time. Shit, I could tell you I didn't get started at the right time. I should have got started a lot sooner, but I got started at the right time for me. And then from then I've started taking it seriously, and I track everything. I truly believe that since I started tracking all my assets, performance, etc., not only does it offer so much more accountability to where things are going, but it grows because your money likes to be watched. I think there's something to that. Your assets like to be watched. They like to be nurtured and something about it. There's something about it. I have a feeling now, obviously, and obviously compound interest is one of the,
of course,
seventh or whatever, the most amazing wonder of the world is, your money compounds. And just look at any company. I mean, Berkshire Hathaway B shares used to be $50, or I'm sorry, Berkshire Hathaway A shares used to be $50. I know a family friend that their family got in at $50, and they're now $350,000 per share of that stock. Maybe it's a little less right now. I mean, the stock's kind of had a little rough run here in the last little bit here, but when Warren was first selling those shares many years ago, it was $50 per share. Their cost basis is $50 on a lot of their position because they just held and held and held and held, and now obviously it's worth a lot more. But the point is, you have to hold. You have to be willing to hold.
Yeah, and you mentioned that you have to have a starting point, and you brought up Warren Buffett, pretty smart guy. One of the quotes I've seen attributed to him was, the best time to plant an oak tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is today. Right. And so I just think that that's a good lesson for anybody. If depending on where you are, it doesn't really matter where you are. Starting from today, you can choose to do something different, whether that's with your career or your money or both.
Yeah, and you can have amazing success like you have, my man. I mean, you've got some serious dough under management, brother, and I think that it's only going to continue to grow. I mean, more and more people need help. As long as you provide a good, honest service, I think there's going to be a major need for advisors and people to help out. Now we're about to take you into our top 10. Chip, are you ready?
Let's go.
Apple or Android?
Apple.
Netflix or YouTube?
Netflix.
Boom. Instagram or Facebook?
Facebook.
Facebook.
No, I'm just kidding.
They're owned by both are owned by Facebook.
That's right. Zuckerberg's getting paid either way.
He's getting lunch, but he's getting hit too in this pandemic because ads are coming off. Chicken or steak?
Steak.
Boom. Do you have a favorite cut of steak?
Filet.
Filet, my man. Smartphone or a laptop when you're on the go?
Smartphone.
Boom. Spotify or Pandora?
Pandora.
Video games or movies?
Oh, video games.
Love it. Do you have a favorite game you play?
2K.
Oh, man. Those are the best. The sports games are my favorite. I haven't played the new ones because I've heard they've gotten real good. I might just want to be on them all day.
They have.
I've heard they've gotten real good. I'm on like the 2009 or something, 11-year-old, 12-year-old.
I feel you, man. I still play a Sega Genesis every now and then.
Yeah, me and my wife are pulling up the Nintendo 64 Mario Kart once a week. It's fun just to get back on them. The graphics suck, but it's still a game, It's still super
fun, man. For real.
And there's something about that, a little escape during these times. Reading books or listening to books?
Reading books.
Nice. Stocks or real estate?
Stocks.
Stocks, baby. Oceans or lakes if you're thinking about taking a vacation?
Ocean for sure.
What ocean would you go out to right now if you could hop on a plane and roll out?
I'd go somewhere in the Pacific. It'd be neat. Yeah, it'd be different for me living on the East Coast. It'd be nice to see the sun set over the ocean rather than rise over the ocean.
Yes, like maybe somewhere like in Fiji or Hawaii or
Thailand. Man. I mean,
let's go, baby. We're all in right now at this point. We're all just like ready to go and get something out here, get the vacation going. When you wake up in the morning, Chip, you're looking at yourself in the mirror. Why do you love being you?
You know what? I got a good life, man. My wife and I have 4 boys. I'm blessed. She is fantastic. And my boys are from ages 13 to 21.
Wow.
And they all get along. And, it's just, things are good, man. I get to do things for work that I enjoy, whether that's meeting with clients, doing interviews like this, or writing the book. And man, got a lot to be thankful for. Really, really blessed.
Tell us a little bit about the book. What was the purpose and intention in the book?
Sure. So one of the things that I found several years ago was that I would have clients who were coming in and they were unhappy. They were working really hard, and their idea was that they were going to work really hard and eventually they'd get to retire and do all the things they wanted to do, right? Except for that, I would also see some of those folks never make it that far.
Right.
And so I decided to do some research on what kind of in the world, where the happiest and healthiest places were. And there are actually lists of those things.
The blue zones or the gray zones. Is that what they talk about?
The blue zones for sure. I watched a documentary on that yesterday, but it's one of those things where then I wanted to see, all right, well, in these places, what are folks doing differently than the average American? And what I found was that they worked 220 hours a year less.
Got you.
But they worked a little bit longer. So instead of retiring, let's say at 65, they retired at 67 and a half, but they worked, what is that? 7 weeks a year? No, 220 hours. So 4.5, 5 weeks a year
less.
More time off than the Americans had. And so what I've wrote the book was to encourage people to look at work and retirement differently and look at it as a process where you find a way to be happy now, right? Making changes either in your finances or your work or both,
right.
But to be able to do it for longer and to be able to start taking almost kind of mini retirements now rather than waiting. I have a client who took a 6-month break. He had moved over to Australia. The story's in the book. He had moved over to Australia to build boats That was what he did.
Wow.
And was working 80 hours a week, just wearing himself out. Went in and had enough. And so he said to his bosses, I can't keep doing this anymore. And they said, well, we don't want to see you go. What can we do? And he said, well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to go. I'm going to sail for 6 months, because one of his dreams was to be able to live on his sailboat and captain for other people. So this gave him a chance to go see what that would cost. But he said, I'll tell you what, I'm going to go sail the Pacific Rim. And when I come back, I think it was the Pacific Rim, may have been somewhere different, sailed for 6 months.
Right.
And when I come back, if you still want me, I'll come back to work. And they did. And he did. And so he got to go. He tells a story about getting to see whales off the deck. Yeah, I mean, just crazy stuff. But the point is, the way that he chose to try to live that kind of mini retirement was he took a 6-month break and then came back to work. For other people, it's working 3 days a week or cutting down their hours. There are a lot of ways to do it.
Right. And the point is to do it now, folks. The point is to right now live your retirement. I always try to say that all the time. I'm every day's Friday in my world, Chip, because I run a business where every day we got to be responsible. It's not like the taxes are filed on the 15th of the year or something. In social media, things are happening every day. You got fighting fires. You're doing promotions. New things come in. Things are, trying to sell stuff for clients. So the point is, you have to create your own reality of what that looks like. And I don't think it just should be, I save all this money and then one day I retire and then I'm hella old and I won't even want to just do anything with it because I'm like, my energy level is not there and I'm not going to want to just try, hike a hill. I'm not going to want to do this. And you hear that quite often. So do it now, folks. Do you have a skill you're trying to master right now? Is there something you're trying to get better at? Is there something you're looking at trying to perfect or even just become better at?
Wow, that's a good question. I really am working on, I'd really like to learn Spanish.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay.
So been working on that.
That's awesome.
And I'm terrible at it, so I'm not even going to try to speak any.
Right.
But it's really just one of those things. No, I speak. No.
Un poquito.
Je parle français. I speak a little French, but I want to learn Spanish. So that's something that I have an interest in. I think that you should always be learning, man.
Yes. Life is full of learning. Charlie Munger, baby. Charlie Munger. A life is well lived when it's full of learning. Do you have a favorite app on your phone right now? Do you have a favorite app you're using a lot on your phone?
You know what? I just started using Voxer.
Oh, I've never heard of that one. Tell me about it.
So it's essentially kind of it's almost like a walkie-talkie.
Oh, okay.
So I have a virtual assistant that helps with some things. And so rather than texting or emailing, I just press the button in the app and I say what I want to say. It records a 30-second message. She can get it when she wants to.
Oh, that's cool.
And then she responds same way. I've been using it now for about a week. Total game changer from a communication standpoint, because it's a lot easier just to say what you're thinking rather than stopping and trying to text it all. It's a lot clearer.
God, yes.
So definitely something that Voxer. I've found very interesting. Voxer.
I'm going to put that in the show notes. We're going to get that in the show notes too.
For sure.
That sounds like a really helpful app. Has there been a book that has changed your life or your mindset?
Yes. There've been several, but one I'd suggest for anybody who's in the entrepreneurial space or considering that would be The E-Myth by Michael Gerber.
Yes.
Great book. About working on versus in the business.
Love that one.
And and I'm a big fan of Tim Ferriss and the 4-Hour Work Week. I think that anybody in any business can learn a lot just in how they think about that book.
Right. And then give your book a shout out too, because we're going to definitely put that in the show notes. The Retirement Remix, is that correct?
That's right. The Retirement Remix. You can find out anything that you want to about it at chipmunn.com. You can listen to the Retirement Remix podcast is at theretirementremix.com, and would love for anybody to check it out.
Love that, man. I can see your business just continually growing. I love that your story, that you made that change in your life and you were self-aware. And that when you did, it just your life even flourished and thrived even more, And so I see that even happening more for you as you're leaning in and during these times that people need this help. We just want to say thank you, man. Can you give our listeners one last real talk thought, Chip?
Yeah, I think going back to our earlier conversation is whatever it is that you've been thinking about doing, start today.
Yes.
Why not now? It is a phrase that we use a lot at my house. And so I would just say whether it's thinking about changing work, whether it's starting saving, whether it's actually kind of wrapping up a career, if it's something you've been on the fence about, why not now?
That's a great one, folks. Why not now? I love that. I love that. That's something you put up on your wall or write into yourself. Folks, you've been hanging out with our featured guest, Chip Munn and Travis Too Tall and Huff. We want to thank you again for your time today, and let's keep being real. What another epic episode. And if you enjoyed the episode today, can you please do me a favor and subscribe to our podcast, The Be Real Show, on iTunes or your favorite podcast platform, and also take a little time today, if you don't mind, and give your boy T Huff a review. I would really super appreciate it, and thank you so much for listening today. Right now, more than ever, folks, we need to work on our reputation for our businesses. And get those reviews, get those positive reviews, get those positive recommendations on both on your social, but also to market on your website. And that is why you want to check out my business, folks, our software, realtimereputation.us. That's realtimereputation.us. Please check it out. It is literally the best thing that's ever happened to many of our campaigns, as that reviews bring together your social and digital campaigns. And the more positive reviews, as people are making those positive, decisions, they're looking at your, at your reviews. And so the more you can get, the better. And make it easy and automated with realtimereputation.us. Check us out.